So I've never used a LUMIX camera in this way before. And I'm talking about trying to fully rely on autofocus for a client shoot. I know I don't normally show client work on this channel, but I wanted to get permission to use some of these clips because I knew I was going to use the S5 II and I knew I was going to use autofocus on this particular shoot. I wanted to show a few clips of the results and, maybe a little bit about how it went. So if you know me and you know my channel, I've used LUMIX cameras since the GH4, kind of built this channel around the GH5 and been using lately the S5s for a lot of interview shoots, and thanks to LUMIX, have been able to use the GH6 and now the S5 II. And up until this point, since the GH4, 2014 or something, up until now, I have not used autofocus on a client shoot. I really only used autofocus on these cameras just to kind of test them out for, some videos for this channel. So if you do want to learn more about LUMIX cameras, make sure you hit that sub button. So this whole autofocus experience was actually very new to me. And there were some times where it was, fantastic, but there were other times where I actually just turned it off. And I think moving forward with the S5 II and possibly with the S5 II X, I think that's how this process is going to roll. Now, I would totally use autofocus as much as possible for talking heads. Like I'm using the S5 II for this right here. And I would totally use it whenever possible for talking heads and any type of tracking shot. So on this shoot I had, there were a couple, walking and talking shots, and the autofocus worked great for that. One of the things I noticed was when the camera was on for a long time, I started to get a couple more, focus bursts where it would pop in and out of focus. And the greenhouse I was shooting in, it was pretty warm in there, but I wasn't having any issues of the camera overheating or anything. The S5 II was definitely getting warm after using it for a few hours. And this was kind of towards the end of the shoot, but I was just noticing the focus was getting a little jumpy. So if the warmth had anything to do with it, I don't know. I'm just kind of freestyling here. So my setup for this shoot was the LUMIX S5 II with the LUMIX S 35mm f1.8 prime. And I rigged it up with the small rig Black Mamba cage and the wooden side handle and the Ninja 5 for monitoring, not recording. And then the small rig mini matte box, and not because I needed it for the shoot, but just because it looks really cool. Then just a variable ND for some exposure adjustments. I was shooting 4K 23.98 frames per second at 10-bit 420. And I was also shooting in the natural color profile for this shoot because the editors really wanted to pump out these videos fast. If I personally was editing this project, I probably would have shot in Vlog, kind of like this shot right here, but they wanted a super fast turnaround and natural is so easy to work with. So the S5 II wasn't too bogged down setting wise, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to use autofocus on this shoot. There were some moments, however, that I needed to turn off the autofocus because I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And that was primarily for some of these close-up B-roll type shots. Some of those shots I had to get a little bit closer to some of these plants that we were talking about. The autofocus just wasn't going the direction and focusing where I wanted it to focus. And so I turned it off for those shots, which probably should have done in the first place. Those aren't the best type of autofocus shots anyway. But as far as the talking heads go, I thought it was great. So there's a little bit of a debate on whether you should use autofocus on client shoots. And I would say if you have autofocus for some of these shoots, yeah, use it. Why would you not? Especially if you're solo on a camera, you don't really have a focus puller or anything. Why would you not use autofocus for some of these talking heads? Walking and talking shots, any type of gimbal work that requires tracking somebody. I think autofocus is perfect for that, and you should use it. It's just another great tool to have. And now on the S5 II, we have autofocus that actually works, and you can take this to the client, and you're going to get great results. So for the autofocus settings, I didn't really do anything fancy. I just used the LUMIX recommended settings for video, full area human detect on the continuous autofocus mode. So just to bring everything full circle and kind of recap what I was talking about in this video, yes, I used autofocus really for the first time on a client shoot with a LUMIX camera. However, I did not use autofocus the entire time on this particular shoot. But it worked great. I highly recommend it. If you are considering the S5 II and you shoot video, might be the way to go. I'm not getting paid by LUMIX to say that or anything, but it is a great user experience when it comes to shooting video. Now, if you want to learn how I set up my S5 II for shoots like this or client shoots, check out this video that's popping up on your screen right here. It'll go through all the settings on how I set up my S5 II for video. My battery is about to die, so I'll catch you in the next video.